Karen's audacity had always been unmatched, but her next stunt reached an almost surreal level. She called 911 over a situation that was entirely within my rights. I had shut off my own water supply at the cabin. It was a routine maintenance action, necessary to fix a leak and prevent damage. Yet Karen somehow interpreted it as a crisis demanding emergency intervention. What followed was a chaotic sequence of disbelief, documentation, and public humiliation that perfectly encapsulated her pattern of entitlement. The morning began quietly. My wife and I were inspecting a minor leak in the cabin's plumbing. I made the necessary adjustments, including shutting off the water temporarily. It was a straightforward maintenance procedure, one that any property owner would undertake without incident. Karen, however, had been observing from afar. Within minutes, she called 911, claiming there was a water crisis and that my family was somehow endangering the neighborhood. She provided a dramatic, inaccurate description, emphasizing urgency that did not exist. The response was almost immediate. Patrol cars arrived, officers rushing to the scene with lights flashing. Not because there was an actual emergency, but because Karen had framed the situation as one. She waved her arms, pointing at the cabin, insisting on intervention, and creating a spectacle for the neighborhood. I greeted the officers calmly, presenting documentation of the maintenance schedule, property ownership, and the fact that shutting off the water was entirely legal and necessary. Karen, undeterred, attempted to argue further. She shouted about endangerment and HOA violations, clearly expecting that volume and theatrics could override legality. The officers, however, were unfazed. After reviewing the situation, inspecting the plumbing, and verifying ownership, they confirmed that no laws had been broken. Karen's claims were entirely baseless. But the real moment of triumph came when I exposed Karen's broader pattern of interference. I presented evidence from previous incidents, surveillance footage of her trespassing, attempts to alter property boundaries, and repeated misuse of emergency services. The officers were astonished at the volume and consistency of her entitlement-fueled actions. Karen's face, once smug with certainty, now displayed a mixture of panic, fury, and disbelief. Neighbors who had gathered to watch the unfolding drama captured the entire event on camera. Videos of Karen calling 911 over a routine plumbing task quickly spread online, earning captions like, "Karen declares water emergency," and "Entitlement versus reality." Her overreach had become public spectacle, reinforcing her reputation as the neighborhood's dramatic antagonist. To ensure no future interference, I implemented additional safeguards: enhanced cameras, signage indicating legal property actions, and formal documentation with the HOA to preempt any unfounded complaints. Karen's credibility within the neighborhood eroded further, as even casual observers recognized the absurdity of her actions. By the end of the incident, the lesson was clear. Entitlement has limits, and attempting to weaponize emergency services against lawful property actions carries legal and reputational consequences. My property was secure, the necessary maintenance completed, and Karen's pattern of overreach documented and publicly exposed. And, of course, Karen's persistence hinted at future attempts to assert control. But with documentation, cameras, and legal authority in place, every next move would be countered strategically, ensuring that her entitlement continued to collapse spectacularly in both public and legal arenas. This episode, absurd and dramatic as it was, reinforced the principle that preparation, evidence, and patience turn audacious overreach into spectacularly inevitable failure.